Hello and welcome to part two of a part three series from Smelly Creations. This is the part two for the Carveco Maker Plus software. The part one was the Vectric Aspire software. One of my followers did mention that is Maker Plus relevant to the Vectric Aspire? Are they sort of equal? They believe that there's another package above this one called Carveco. So you've got Maker, which is like the sort of basic, Maker Plus, which is the intermediate, and then you've got the top package, which is called Carveco. That is sort of like the full 3D, and certainly has a price tag to match that. I can't imagine many people would be going with Carveco. That's the difference between sort of Vectric and Carveco is they've got two different payment mechanisms, sort of where Vectric's a one-off price. So Vectric Aspire, you're going to buy it outright. You're going to buy it. We're on version 11 now, so you can buy that outright, and then you can either pay an upgrade fee when they make a newer version, or you can just stay on the version you're on. But if you want the new features, you have to pay the upgrade fee to go up to the latest version. Whereas Carveco here works in a completely different way. They work like most companies these days. They've gone for the sort of the monthly payment scheme. So you're paying a monthly fee, but you're always getting the most modern version of the software. Any updates they release, you just download them. I've just literally just updated this to the latest version, so you just update them, and you're always staying on top of the latest software. But that doesn't mean you're going to get the same value. Maybe sort of Vectric Aspire, you're looking at around the £1,800 mark to buy Aspire. But you might use that. You could use that and stay on that version for forever, never upgrade. Whereas Maker, obviously, Maker Plus, you're paying your monthly fee. So Maker Plus is around £50 a month. Maker, I believe, Maker is around 15, I think, £15 a month. And then the top package, Carveco, wow, that's just that's got an insane price tag of £200 a month on that one. So I can't see that suiting many people. But anyway, let's move over to get the start on this. So on the last video, we did the Land Rover emblem, and we're going to do the same in this software, and we can see what the sort of difference is. This one is a lot more modern looking. So we click our new model, and we're granted or welcomed with this little new screen here. Same as any Vectric sort of software and this software. Choose where you want to put your offset. So I generally, as mentioned last time, always work off the center or the bottom left corner. They're the sort of positions I normally use to set my X, Y, and Z offsets. So this one we go to the bottom left corner again. We've got our size, which was the same as our last one, 100 by 60. So 100 millimeters wide, 60 millimeters tall. And then the resolution really is related to the sort of 3D screens and that side of things. So just leave that set as the standard. And then here in the UK, most people work to the meters metric. So we're okay on that. As you can see, this software looks far more modern than Vectric. It's a much more modern system. The graphical interface, it looks more fancy. That doesn't mean it's better, but it looks more modern. So first thing we're going to do is we're going to bring that bitmap image into the software so we can trace it and create our vector. So over here on the right hand side, we've got our layers or our parts of our project. So here we've got our vectors, bitmaps, sheets, toolpaths. These are all the parts that make up our sort of project. Works very different to Vectric. So being someone who's used Vectric for years now, I wouldn't say it was a really easy change between the two softwares. You can't just bring exactly the same mindset and sort of way of working into this software. That's not to say it's any worse. you started in this one, you would have found the same problem going over to Vectric. So let's get started. So we've got our bitmaps. We want to put our Land Rover bitmap in here. So we can right click on the bitmaps, import, and there we are, Land Rover. So we bring that in, and then we've got our 3D view, so we'll see nothing because we've done nothing 3D, and then we've got our 2D view, which is here. So here it is. This is a raster file again, a bitmap, as you can see, with its jaggedy edges. The difference between the vectors and the bitmaps is this is obviously all made up of little blocks. So we need to turn that into a vector so that we can work with it. So what we're going to do here is we're going to come up to bitmap. No, sorry, we're going to come up to vectors. And I do apologise, you will see me jumping around a little bit more. I don't fully know where I'm going in this software to do the same sorts of things. So we're going to come up to vectors, bitmap to vector. Click on that. And then here pops up this screen here. So you get a lot of extra pop-up screens coming up. We've got create boundary, which will just create the boundaries around it. And then if we're doing this as a colored version, like I showed you in the Vectric, you can go sort of reduced colors. So at the minute it's doing 32 different colors. You can bring that all the way down to sort of 2. You can see down here at the bottom, we've got black, white, and then before we probably had all different shades of black and yellow. So here we have all the different shades of black, white, greys. So bring it down to 2 colors because we want to get rid of the white and we want to keep the black. The primary color there, this is the one it's going to pick, is going to be the black. And then we get the same questions we had last time. So how many pixels do we want it to look at? So if we had the stray little pixels over here, we had a few dots randomly located, we wouldn't want to pick those up. So we can change this amount here to make sure that we don't pick up little tiny patches of don't need. So 10's fine because it's a prick. Even though it's obviously got its jagged raster edges, it is a clean image. It doesn't have any stray little raster blocks over here. So now we can go create vectors, and as we can see, highlighted in pink, here's our new pink vectors around our image. You can see, so it's trying to do its best here to trace around around our jagged edges. It's just sort of taking the intermediate middle line between them. You can sit and play about with that. You've got your smoothness. Your smoothness is the same again. It's gonna define how it sort of works with these corners here. So if you was to bring the smoothness down, you get a much sharper corner to it. I like to have smoothness fairly high so that when you machine it, it's got quite nice rounded edges and everything to it. So there is our vector. So we've got our vector layer and our bitmap layer. What we can do now is we can either delete the bitmap like I did last time, or we can just come up here and we can turn the bitmap layer off. So the bitmap layer turned off, and this is the logo nicely placed in the center here. So we need to do the same thing as we did with the other one. We're going to need to do all the same tooling paths. Machine the outside, machine in here, and machine this pocket. So let's get started. This one works very different when it comes to programming your toolpaths. It doesn't matter which which way you sort of start. So if we select this line and this line, holding down there so that I can select multiple lines. So if I click the first line and then click the second line, it will just switch. But if I hold down Shift, I can select multiple lines. So we're going to come over there to that, and we're going to click on Toolpaths. Now we're on Toolpaths. This is what we get the options for on this version. So this would have been the same as doing a roughing and a finishing pass in Vectric for 3D. We want to just do, these are our options we want to use here. So what we actually want to do, this will be that create profile toolpath that we're going to use on the outside. Basically follow a line, and then we're going to actually do create an area clearance toolpath. And then here we've got an inlay. These are all our different options that what we've got. So you can either do it. What I did last time was you could just do it on that one line, come down to follow this. So then we're going to say, it says profile. Where do you want to go? Do you want to go on the left hand side on the outside, or do you want to go on the right hand side and machine on the inside? So I want to go on the outside, go on the outside of that. Cutting depths. Where do you want to start? So we're going to start this, of course, we're going to set the 0 to the top of the material. So we're going to start it at 0, finishing depth. I want to go 2 mil deep. And then what it says, it asks you is what tooling do you want to use to do this operation. So we click on the click to select tooling, and I only want that to be 2 mil wide. So I'm actually going to click 2 mil end mill here, and then if you click on, this is what you've got saved in your toolpath library. Click on edit, you can come in and change its all of its settings. So same as you did with Vectric, you've got how much you can step down per cut. So let's put that to 0.5 mil. We can go more, but we're just going to set that to 0.5 mil. So you step over. A lot of these are already going to be set for you, but you might need to change them according to your manufacturer settings for your tool. RPM, feed rate, plunge rate. So we're going to put these up to 200. Put this up to 1,000, so 1 meter a minute, 200 plunge. Select that. That's what we want. And then here we got all our other options. So we've got climb mill or conventional mill. I want to climb mill it, and then we can add a lead in and a lead out if we want. We're not going to do this because it would damage our job, but it basically would, on this outside, it might be a good idea. It means it won't plunge straight in on the line. It will come in, go round, and then it will lead out. So on the outside cut, that is quite good. It'll give you a finish on the outside. And then you can add the ramping moves. So rather than the cut coming straight down vertically, it will ramp its way down, which puts less pressure on the cutter. It's not always needed. It's not as much in wood, but in metals, then adding the ramping move is definitely a good idea. So that's what we're going to go with. So we've got 2 mil deep, and we're going to calculate. We can give this a name, so we can just call this outer pocket. Calculate that now. So that's calculated that, and what that will have done over here, you can see in our toolpaths, it's now added this as a toolpath over there. So outer pocket is now a toolpath, and you can simulate that. If you click the simulate controls, it will pop in the 3D view. You can see what that is going to do for you. What we're going to do though is I'm going to now do all of the programming, and then we look at the simulations at the end. So if we then come out, what we can come out and do here, so we will have done our pocket. Now, some people say it's backwards, but I'm just going to do the outside one. So we go to toolpaths, we're going to do the outside profile again. And then we're going to start at 0. I know that I want to cut this 20 mil deep. I apologise if some of these settings are slightly different from what I did in the last video. I should film these videos. I probably should film this whole series one straight after the other, so I remembered what I did on the last video. We're going to go the 6 mil cut here. I've got a 2 flute 6 mil cutter. Use that. I can go to 1 cuts at a time. Spindle speed 1500. Put that at 400. No, we want to put that at 1500. Put that at 250. It's very similar, this tool library, to the Vectric. It's very similar. You can also save a copy of it, which is always a good idea. So the options we've got here, which we don't have in Vectric, Vectric doesn't show us, is, there's me, look how bad I'm, look. I'm used to Vectric. We've got our metric tools here. Look, we've even got a Mana tool. So I am a fan of the Amana tools. I've got a really nice Amana V-bit tool, which will be in there with its model number. It's got a lot more tools this software from the start. So there's a lot more in there. I'd normally delete the inch tools. I don't use them much. But here you go. I'm working, obviously, as I've just wrongly showed you, in aluminium. And I probably should be looking down and coming down here to this wood and plastic and selecting this one and seeing what the settings are for this one. So I don't want millimeters a second, I want millimeters a minute. That's what I work in, millimeters a minute. So we can see we've got very different speeds and feeds here for the wood. So it's saying take 2.5 mil cuts at a time. We could take 2 mil cuts. I don't want to take 2.5. Spindle speed 1500. Uh, I don't want to travel at 4.5 meters a minute. I think that's too fast. We can travel at 2 meters a minute. I don't want to plunge my cutter into my job at 3 meters a minute. So I'm only going to go 250 mil a minute to feed that in. Uh, so I didn't know Carveco actually had so many cutters, but that's quite impressive how many cutters it's already got set up for. That's an impressive amount of cutters in there. So select that one. I won't bother changing the 2 mil one because I'd already changed the settings to match what I wanted it to be anyway. So yes, so what we've got here is we've got our climb cut again, 20 mil deep. And then I think what actually we'll do is give it a lead in and a lead out. So no, actually, I'm not going to give it lead in and out. Apologize. Haven't done that in Vectric, so we should make it like for like. So let's go outer profile, calculate that line there. Let's go outside the workpiece, which is where the cutter's going to be. So that will now show up here, outer pocket, outer profile. I will simulate all of that in a moment, and then let's get this. What we're now going to do is machine out all of this center area. So yeah, these off so I don't see them. Just extra lines can get confusing. So what we'll do is we'll select all of it like that, hold down shift, and I'll take out the lines I don't want. So I don't want, let me go back. I don't want that line, don't want that line, I don't want that line. So I just want to machine everything in between the pink lines. Back to toolpaths. We'll do this as a area clearance, so basically a pocket. We've already got the vectors selected. Once again, we're going to start at 0. We're going to finish at 2 mil deep. Now what you've got is your final tool allowance. So this is how much it's going to material you're going to leave on for the next tool to take out, which is always a good idea. It's always a good idea when you do your roughing pass to leave a small amount on there to then take away with your finishing pass. You always want to be doing that so that you're not left with any mismatches between the tooling. So you don't have you don't have like a little where your 6 mil cutter might go a little bit deeper than your 2 mil cutter if you set your Z slightly wrong. If you leave like 0.2 mil, 0.1 mil, if you leave that on it'll leave it on the wall and normally on the base, and then the final cutter will take all that away and you'll be left with a nice clean finish. So I'm going to put 0.2 mil in there for my finishing allowance. Here's our tool list again. We're going to come in and we're going to click add. Make sure this time we're actually on wood, and we're going to put the same cutters in there. So I'm going to do it with the same cutters as I did before. So the 6 mil, I'd already set the speeds and feeds and everything on that. So we put the 6 mil in, come back, select our next cutter, and it doesn't have a 2 mil, so I'd have to add a 2 mil. So one way of doing that is this. Come in and we can edit the copy, bring him down to 2 mil, change this to 2 mil. so I need to keep making sure I change this because I don't want it on millimeters a second. You can massively get your speeds and feeds wrong if you don't make sure what it is you work in. I always work in millimeters a minute. It's what I've always worked in. If you get it wrong and you put in millimeters, if you get this wrong, millimeters a second, millimeters a minute, if you get that figure wrong, you're gonna know it when you come to run the job. So we've got millimeters a minute. This is on the 2 mil cutter. We're going to do this one at 1,000, 1 meter a minute, 250 again. Flush. Select that. Then we can select that and add that to it. So I might have to add the 1 mil in as well. This is telling us what this tool is going to do, so you can come in and change that as well. And then you've got these different types of pocket machining. So you've got raster, which is just going to go in basically in lines, take it out, and then you've got offset, which will sort of work in a square motion going out. We're just going to leave it as the raster for now, and it's coming in here. Look, it says machine thickness. The material I haven't told it how thick the material is, and this is a difference in Carveco. Vectric would have asked me that right at the start when I created the job. It would have said, how thick is your piece? And Carveco doesn't do that. You have to come into the material thickness here and set that. So 20 mil is the thickness of my material. I don't want anything left across the top. So what you could do here, if you had a really rough top to your material, if you hadn't already cleaned it, you hadn't already machined it, it was a bit uneven, you could move your model down like 1 mil into the job, and then what it'll do is it'll clear that 1 mil off the piece of wood before it starts machining. So you'll basically be like surfacing the material before you actually start the job. We're not. I'm going to assume that I've already planed it. I've already got a nice bit of wood starting flat. So there's that. And then we're going to calculate that now. We can see now it's populated the screen with our toolpaths. So close out of that. We can put back the other two. So here's all our toolpaths now. We can see all the toolpaths we want. So what we're going to do is going to go to simulate control bar. This up. And then what we can do is we can select our. There we go. This is our simulation of the one that's done. It will stop. What that means is that's everything that it's going to do with the 6 mil tool. Then you push go again. It's now going to show you everything that it's going to do with the 2 mil tool. See, we can tilt it, hold the middle mouse button. We can tilt the block to actually get a sort of 3D view of what it's doing. You can see it now just coming in there, cleaning out where the 6 mil couldn't remove all the material. You can speed it up, you can speed it up, slow it down, skip sections. There, it's taking its allowance off the outside, and you can see here, there's our 0.2 mil there being taken off to make sure that you get a nice smooth finish. We get an error, which is lovely. So there's an error. Don't know what that is. Thanks, Carl. So there's that. That's the inside. So I am going to have to come in, obviously, once again with the 1 mil cutter and clean that out. Do that in a minute. So we've clicked on outer pocket simulate. It's going to show us what the outer pocket's going to do. There's our outer pocket, 2 mil deep as well. And then we're going to click on the outer profile simulate, and it's going to show us its outer cut there. So that is pretty much what we're after there. Pretty much what we want. The only difference was, as I said, I really should put the 1 mil tool in there. So if we double click on our toolpath, if we double left click on our toolpath, it will let us come back in and add another tool. Once again, we don't have a 1 mil, we only got 0.5. I don't have any 1.5 mil tools, so I'm actually going to get rid of the 1.5. Change it down to 1 mil. Still have 0.5. Change this to match the minute. Up the speed of this one to 19,000 RPM. Feed rate, you've got to be careful. It's just a 1 mil car, but it's not removing much because it's just going to be taking out what was left from the 2 mil car. Do just make these up as I go along half the time. And then I'll just tweak them as I run the job to work out what's the highest I can speed up and run that at. So there's our 1 mil added in. Now calculate again. So we can see now I've calculated again and it's added this 1 mil cutter into over here. We can close out of that. We can right click this. Skip that one because we've already done cutter. That'll be the 2 mil. Skip that one, and then if we're going to come in, skip that one. This should be the. In a minute, it will be the. I say I'm not as used to this software as the Vectric. Visually, I do think this is a much more appealing. It does look. It's a very nice looking software, and I'm really impressed with how many tools it's already got. So here we go. Here the 1 mil's coming in now, clearing out all the little areas the 2 mil couldn't get into. So it's taken out between the N and the D. It should just take this up more. Yeah. There we go. So that 1 mil's now just come in, cleaned up all, taken out the worst of it. If you zoom in, you can still see. Look, here's my vector. It still, as I mentioned in the Vectric software, still hasn't come right up to the point here. I actually have ran this job since, and I didn't bother running the V carve. I didn't bother taking these corners out. And to be honest with you, it's not noticeable. It's not very noticeable. It didn't need to come all the way there. It looks just fair. It's not worth the effort, I don't think, for putting the V cutter in and doing all that as well. If you the larger you went with this, the less you'd notice it, obviously, because of the radius of the cutters. So that is all my toolpaths in there. Now what you have to do is save these out again to the machine post-processor format. So here's all of our toolpaths. We've got our three, and we can come down to save as. I believe we can just click here. Let us save all of them. So we can save our toolpaths. Now, one thing that this is actually what the Carveco version is really good at is where it says machine file down here. This is obviously our post processor. So we open this up, and one difference this has to the Vectric software is I found this one's got a lot of machine in it. So with the work B, you are working to like normally be setting that as Gerbil millimeters, but we've actually got work B in the Vectric in the Carve software, so you can actually just come down and select work B in here, along with like you've got your X carve. So we've got a good selection of. You go up through here. There's a very high chance that your machine will be in here. So I was using this for the work B since last filming, and I have now got rid of my work B. I don't have the work B anymore. So I've now moved over to using my Stony CNC exec machine, which for that one you set it as a Mac file. So I'd come over here to Mac 2 millimeters CNC. So you can select generally the machine you've got. It is a good chance it would actually be in this here. So the work B, for instance, you would just come down. Don't put it in inches because I don't want inches. I want it in millimeters. So I'd come down and do that. Now, what you can do is the work B, for instance, you're going to have to do these as separate. You could set them, you could link them together. So where you've got the outer profile 6 millimeters and the clearance 6 millimeters, you could put them into one program, which is what I often will do to save time. We'll sometimes now put those into two. And then further on from that, as your machine advances, so like my new machine, if I'd set these tools up as tool 1, tool 2, tool 3, I could save all these as one whole file, send the whole file over the machine. It'll run the tool 1, so the 6mm. It will then come over, wait, tell me I need to change the tool to 2mm, carry on, do the 1mm. But generally, just save them out. For the workbook, it was always easier. Just save them out as separate files. So you would just save them out as separate files, and thanks email, and put that as save that out, and that save it out. So that would be your land. Now, and also what I like to do, this is a feature I don't really see in Vectric, but I think it's absolutely brilliant software feature, is to append the toolpath details to the file names. I really like this idea. In Vectric, I saved them as I'd come in and I'd save it as, sort of out of pocket 2mm. I'd add in the details. Here, all I have to do is put a tick in this box here, and then when it saves these files out, it's actually going to let me just change where it's going to put this. Okay, when I put this tick in here, it's actually going to add the tool names to the files, so I know which tool is for what. So there's that there, and you can see here it is. So we've got Land Rover toolpath out of pocket. Look, it's added 10mm, end mill, 2mm. It's added out of profile, 6mm. So at the end of all of the file names, it's added the tool that's going to be used to do that job. So it's also put them in sequence. Look, so got area clearance, 6mm. And it's put a 1 in brackets to show that that's the first operation you need to run. It's got the 2mm, the second operation you need to run, and 3mm, the operation 3, 1mm. So it's put them all into sequence for how they need to be run and what tool you need to use for them. So this was part 2 of the video. Apologies, it was a bit long-winded again. It's obviously, like I say, isn't software that I use anywhere near as much as the Vectric software. But I am impressed with this software. I do like it, and I do think if I was to use it on a much more regular basis, if I started using this instead of Vectric, I would become a lot more fluent, a lot more efficient in this software. Visually, it is nicer. I love how many tools that's in there. That's a great, especially for beginners, people who are just starting out in the CNC world. That's a great selection of tools that you've got to choose from without having to know little about tool speeds and feeds, etc. So you've got a great selection of tools, and you've got a good amount of tool, got a good amount of machine post processors already set up in there for you for when it comes to saving out your file. So I'm actually going to save this one. So there we go. That's that was the Carveco video. My speeds and feeds might not fully match my Vectric ones, but I can't remember what I set for them. And this also shows you how to go from a bitmap into a vector into a machinable part. And then I will do one more video, which is going to be a sort of comparison video. And in that, we're going to go over, just not too long-winded like this one. We're going to go over how the two softwares differ, what pros and cons there are to each of them, and maybe even down to a sort of quick look at the financials and how it would work for an individual. For instance, this is monthly payment. If you suddenly if you stopped machining, you might have only paid 4 months, £200, whereas you've just outlaid £1,800 on the Vectric software. But we'll go over that in the next video. I hope you enjoyed the video. I hope you like the look of having a little look at Maker Plus here. It's a great piece of software. I can't really fault either of them massively. They're both incredible bits of software, and what they do is incredible. anybody who's out there in the CNC community and wants to get into machining, either one of these softwares are gonna do a great job for getting you into CNC machining. So thanks very much for watching, and I'll see you in video 3 on our comparison video. And if there's any other videos you want to see, once again, do drop a message in the comments, let me know, and we'll go from there. So thank you very much for watching. Take care and see you all soon.